Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to Prosperon Network's webinar on automating network management documentation with NetBrain. So today the agenda that we will cover is I'm Matthew Boucher, I'm an account manager at Prosperon Networks, and with me on the call is Alejandro, one of our technical engineers here at NetBrain, who will run through NetBrain with yourself. Another one to cover off is Prosperon Networks and the partnership we have with NetBrain. Then we'll move on to network documentation challenges with Alejandro, then a live demonstration to see NetBrain in action, and question and answer session at the end of this webinar. So firstly, who am I? I'm Matthew Boucher. I'm an account manager here at Prosperon Networks, looking after NetBrain in particular, and my colleague Alejandro, who will run through the NetBrain webinar with you today as well. And you can see we have links to our LinkedIn, Twitter, and our blog page, as well as my LinkedIn page as well. So who are Prosperon Networks? Prosperon at a glance. So we are an authorized SolarWinds partner of 14 years. We were the first NetBrain partner in the UK when they moved over in 2018. Prosperon delivered over 600 days of professional services to our customers in 2019 and have 800 support cases with our customers in 2019. We have 8 certified SolarWinds engineers and 2 NetBrain specialized engineers. We are security cleared, so if you have a security requirement, we can come on site. That's not a problem at all. And we are a SolarWinds FRAC MVP. So why did Prosperon onboard NetBrain as a partner? So for a number of years, Prosperon were looking at NetBrain as a solution to help with SolarWinds, enhance the SolarWinds product through the API data. So by having the SolarWinds and NetBrain integration, this allows you to have that one single pane of glass. That is something that is very important to network engineers, rather than having a number of tools and solutions. NetBrain it complements SolarWinds to allow you to have that one single pane of glass. So why did Prosperon choose NetBrain? A lot of challenges that IT companies face at the moment are outdated network diagrams. A lot of companies use Visio or hand diagrams, so these are all out to date once you finally finished your documentation. Tribal knowledge. As we know in IT, there are a number of skill shortages. So level 3 engineers don't often have the time to pass on their knowledge to a level 1 engineer. This is where NetBrain can help with that gap. And also visibility. No one understands fully what is in their network because someone might add in a file or change a configuration without actually telling you what they're doing. So who are NetBrain? So NetBrain was founded in 2004 by a network engineer who used to work for Thomson Reuters. His pain points were the fact that he had a large network to look after, but there was no tool that allowed him to monitor the network and troubleshoot through an automation platform. A lot of the issues he was having were done by hand and manual, so a lot of the diagrams were out of date. NetBrain has been going since 2004 and has rapidly expanded in the last couple of years to have headquarters in Boston and then offices in Toronto, Berlin, London, Shanghai, and yeah. So moving forward, powering. So NetBrain have 2,000 customers in around the world, representing 1/3 of the Fortune 100 enterprise companies, with 100,000 community members and 1.6 million network devices currently being managed by NetBrain today. Some of the awards NetBrain have won are the best in network class in 2018 and 2017, and it was named a leader in the Gartner Magic Quadrant for network automation in 2016, 2017, and 2018. And in 2015, it was named as an IT cool vendor as well. Moving on, some of the customers NetBrain have, they cover a wide variety of sectors, from telecommunications and technology, all the way to consulting, banking and finance, and higher education. So whatever sector you're in, NetBrain is for you. NetBrain supports 90+ vendors in the marketplace. There isn't one solution that NetBrain cannot support. So all your information can be exported into the NetBrain maps to allow you to have that documentation easily to hand. They're in 70+ countries currently in terms of their customer base. And as I said before, they cover 50+ industries and have 23,000 engineers trained worldwide. So now we're going to run a quick poll. How are you currently documenting your network today? So now we can see the poll results here. We have Visio at 60%, with hand diagrams at 10%, SolarWinds NTA at 20%. So a lot of these tools you currently have, I guess, are all done by Visio by hand. So it's a lot of manual processes. So today we'll talk around how NetBrain can help you save your time in terms of the automation platform around documentation.
Thank you, Matt. So here, Alejandro, I'm the NetBrain engineer that will be showing you around today. And so we're going to discuss some of these features because many people said that they use Visio to document their network. I'm going to be addressing that as well. Okay, so a quick introduction. So what are the most common documentation issues that we face today? So as network engineers, we try to keep track of our network diagramming everything, but we still face the challenges of lack of visibility in our network, outdated documentation, and even if we manage to have something documented, that data is going to be static. So say, for example, that you manage to do a patch revision and you check that all the cables matches with your configs. How can you check that in 3 months that's going to be the same? Another problem, as we can see below, is the difficulties to share and find information. And finally, how do we standardize the way in which our engineers document our network? So what's NetBrain's response to this? What we're going to offer here is we're going to turn your maps from static into dynamic maps that you can interact with. We're going to offer this information into multiple formats, and we're going to centralize all the network documentation in a single place. Speaking of dynamic maps, we're going to see that they are on-demand, up-to-date, accurate, and they offer different layers, which is a big challenge when you want to create a Visio diagram. Then we're going to see that we can use multiple formats to extract the information that we want to see. So for example, we can access a web interface, we can extract an inventory report, create dashboards, or even export it to a Visio or Word documents. Centralized documentation, we can use NetBrain as a data storage for all the relevant files, configurations, and inventory reports that are useful for our day-to-day operations. These are shareables, and if you happen to be an MSP or someone with multiple customers, there is multi-tenancy involved in this. Okay, so let's jump into our NetBrain desktop, and I'm going to give you practical examples of day-to-day operations that we want to do. So I'm just going to exit this, and let's jump into our desktop right here. Okay, so every NetBrain task begins with a map. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find one device that I'm interested in, and I'm going to type the host name of that device. So there we have it. Now that I found this device, I'm going to create a map with it. And now that we have it, I'm going to double click on it. What's the information that we get right from the beginning? We can see all the basic inventory information that you will find on your devices. On top of that, we will also find all the interface and all the module information on the device. And then we can also find all the configurations, the topology information, and very interestingly, we can find all the data tables on that device here. So we can see the routes, we can see the ARP table, and even the neighbor table. So how can we check that this is accurate? How can we check that this is actually what's happening on our network? To do so, I'm going to click on this plus symbol on my device, and based on the layer 3 information that this device provided me, I'm going to expand the network. Now we can see the immediately connected devices, and if we get closer, we can see parts of the configuration on this router. Here I'm going to create a quick note of that so that we can use it later. Now that we have this, I want to keep going. I want to see what's beyond my WAN. I want to see what's connected to all my sites. So I'm just going to continue to expand my network and see what NetBrain finds. I think it's worth mentioning that all these interfaces and connections are automatically created by NetBrain. So no human interaction was involved in the creation of these links. Now I'm going to go to my London site and find some more devices. And there we have it. So here we have a quick overview of our network. Probably not the best look for a diagram. So I'm going to change this to something that works for me. I'm going to right click and change the layout of my map. And this layout happens to be better, so I'm going to just use this for now. Okay, great. So just in a few seconds, we could see what's actually connected to our devices. And now what I want to do is I want to save this map for future reference. I'm going to call this EMEA map, and I'm going to save it to my desktop. Finally, we have this map, but I want to share it with someone else. I want to let my other team to be to have a look at this map just like I'm seeing it. And I also want to share it maybe with my NOC team. So I'm going to send it to my distribution group. And there we have it. Then I'm going to say, hi, please check this map and go and share it. The powerful thing about this is that I just share the exact same thing that the thing that I'm seeing, and they will get the exact same thing on their screen when they open it. So it's a very powerful collaboration tool. Now, I'm going to give you a real use case scenario. Imagine that your manager asks you or puts you in charge of taking a backup of your whole network, creating a baseline of how everything looks, and finally creating a diagram for it. I have done this before in the past, and it's very time consuming, and depending on the amount of devices you have, it's going to take hours or days or weeks of manual work. So just to begin with this task, this complicated task, I'm going to export this map to a Word document. As you can see, we also have the options of visio or image, but for my use case, I'm going to export it to a Word document. So what NetBrain is going to do is it's going to export this, all its pages with all its devices to a useful document. So now we're going to wait while it extracts its data, and we're going to download this map to review it together. Okay, so let's go ahead and download this map. This is saved by default in the NetBrain repository, but you can download it to your machine to review this. Okay, save it. And there we have it. So this document was just generated by NetBrain. It's using our company logo, and here we can specify the different issue control details. Here we have a timestamp just created by NetBrain. And finally, if I keep going down, we're going to find a table of contents generated by NetBrain. And if we keep going down, we're going to find a Visio attachment, an overview of our map. And here below, we can find a zip file that contains all the configurations of all of our devices. I think it's also worth mentioning that NetBrain is going to automatically remove any sensitive information, such as a username or a password that you may want to hide, including SNMP strings or anything else that you don't want a third party to see. These are commented out by NetBrain automatically. If we keep going down, we're going to find an asset data list. This may also come very handy if you want to keep track of all the serial numbers, the software version, and the platform of the devices you currently have. Then if we keep going down, we're going to find some more tables with information about the interfaces, the config, etc. Okay, so we have just done this exercise and saved our map and saved a copy and a backup of all the configs of all of our devices. And it took us, I think, about 5 minutes. Think about how long it's going to take you if you want to do the same task on with manual work. Okay, we've just done this manually here, but what if I wanted a recurrent copy or backup of my network. We can do this too by creating a backup task. To do so, we're going to go to our domain management and we're going to create a new task. Here we have a benchmark task, which is basically a backup of your network. And we're going to indicate NetBrain. We want to run this on a regular basis, maybe daily at this time. I want all these devices to be included, and I want to retrieve all this live data. Then it's going to give us a few options on how we want to export this. And one of the options is, and this is very interesting actually, that we can export it to a Visio document. So if you are already using Visio, you can export it to Visio, and that can be stored locally in NetBrain or externally to a network location. This will ensure that every time that you're looking at your maps, you know that you're looking at the latest version, which will probably be taken the night before. So that's really good to keep track of how your map looks. If any device is missing or added, that will come up here. So that was our example on how to create a map, how to display the information. But what if we wanted to get more specific? What if we wanted to see real data on our map in real time? To do so, NetBrain has created these data views. And data views are a way to approach the single pane of glass concept. To do so, we just clicked on one feature of our network that we want to see, and NetBrain is going to highlight this and provide us with notes and different tables that are relevant to us. Here we can see, for example, one routing protocol on our network. And if we wanted to see a separate one, we can just click on that, and there we have it. What if we wanted to see the status of our WAN provider? What if we want to see our BGP information? There it is. Now, it's also worth mentioning that this is running on cache mode, and NetBrain has two different modes. You can run these things based on your last backup, or you can run them on real time. So all you have to do is move that switch here and either pull data regularly or do it once based on the live data. Okay. Now we've seen this from NetBrain, but what if you wanted to extract information from a third-party tool? That can be done as well, and we have made some progress in integrating NetBrain via API to different systems you may already have. So imagine, for example, that you want to see any active alerts in SolarWinds. We can represent that here on our map, and we can see any devices with pending alerts. And it's even going to create a table here for you where you can see what the actual alert is and when it happened. What if you wanted to, for example, see any incident information on your network? Here we have connected NetBrain to ServiceNow to provide us with any change that is pending on these devices. And all of that is going to be highlighted on the map. So these are two examples of integration. However, if you happen to have any tool that has an API, we can create a connection to it. Moving on to the next topic, let's talk about change analysis. Did you ever wanted to see how your network looked or how was your configuration a couple of months ago or maybe a year ago? That can be done with NetBrain with the change analysis report. So if I go to my start button and I go to my change analysis, I will be able to see a report generated by NetBrain. Now, this is done by default every 7 days, but we're going to select a time range and we're going to go back a couple of months. So I'm just going to go back to maybe September of this last year, and I want to compare it to today's date. Then you can select the scope of devices. I'm just going to go with all of them, and I'm going to run this report. So NetBrain came back to me with a report of what happened on the network during that time. And here, for example, if I select one device, I can compare the change between these two different dates, and NetBrain is going to highlight in red what changed in our configuration. So that's really impressive when it comes when it comes to pinpoint something that changed in my network at any given time. Then we have another very cool feature called the inventory report. So this is about change, but what if we wanted to keep track of the inventory in our network? I have to done this manually before for different companies, and you have a big Excel spreadsheet and you need to fill this manually. What NetBrain can do for you is create a table that contains all the inventory information based on the real output that you get from your devices. Here you can use the search engine to look for any particular serial numbers. So if you wanted to find this by serial number, you can do that, but you can also put any other variables to look for devices. Then another very useful one is if you happen to have different switches in your network, modular switches, Nexus, etc., you can see all the module information here as well. So if you needed to raise a tag case to make a replacement, all the information is readily available here. And if you had to export this to either an Excel or CSV file, you can just export all this information to a useful file. Actually, I'm going to open to show how it works. And there it is. So now we can see a CSV file ready to be used and saved for audit or compliance reasons. Moving on to a different feature is we've just checked change, we've checked inventory, but there is a less common table that we don't have because of our limitations, but we will be able to see it here. And this is a very interesting one from a network engineer point of view. We have what we call one IP table. And this one IP table is a single repository for all the IP addresses in our network. So what NetBrain is going to do is it's going to create a table with all of these, and it's going to associate them with their current MAC address, and it's even going to resolve via DNS all the name of these IP addresses so that we can find that here. Finally, you can come to this string search and just type any kind of variable that you want to find, and you will be able to find it here. For example, just find these devices, or maybe some location or any other variable that you want to find. So amazing tool if you have large subnets, if you have long lists of IP distribution, you can find all of it here. Finally, say that you have a monitoring team or you have a big screen where you represent all your information. NetBrain also provides us with something called dashboards. And what we can represent in these dashboards is real-time information of all these different features in our network, all these different tools. So here, for example, I'd like to represent some routing information. I'm going to go ahead and create EIGRP. And I'm going to tell NetBrain I want, well, in this case, I'll just add all my devices to it. And we're going to load the map. And in less than 10 seconds, I've just created a dashboard for your team to use. Now they have access to the overview of their map. They have access to the information of all their devices. And if you keep going down, you can also populate all these different types of informations. And if you wanted to get rid of one, you can delete them. If you want to move them around, it's a really interactive, responsive tool. So it can be as complicated or as easy as you want. Okay, so that's more or less all the different things that we can represent here. And I want to stress one thing, which is the API integration. Anything that has a REST API on it can be connected to NetBrain and can be represented here, just like we saw with the SolarWinds example or the service now. So now, if you have any further questions, I think we're going to move to another poll and maybe do a Q&A. So thank you for listening, and I'll be waiting on your questions. Okay, thank you.
So thank you very much for that, Alejandro. That was a really good demonstration. So our second poll here, could your organization benefit from using NetBrain? I'll give you a few minutes to answer this question. So as you can see from the poll, 95% of you do believe NetBrain can help your organization. So following this demonstration, one of our account managers will reach out to yourselves to have a further conversation around how NetBrain can benefit your organization. And that's our webinar. So in terms, have you got any questions at all? We'd like to open up the floor to any questions for Alejandro or myself to answer. Just give a few minutes for some questions to come through. So as we can see on here, is it possible to combine layer 2 and layer 3 information in one map? Alejandro, I'll hand it over to yourself.
Thank you, Matt. So that is correct. The answer to that question is yes. And actually, I'd like to give you a real example of that if we have a few seconds. So this map here was represented in layer 3 basis. However, what if we wanted to see the layer 2 connections? That would be as easy as selecting layer 2 here and then expand to see the physical cables connected to each app on one of these devices. And then we can see all the different information on them. So yes, and we can document that as well.
Fantastic, thank you, Alejandro. The second question is, can NetBrain map ACI and traditional network devices on one map?
Hello, yes, so that's correct. You can put legacy devices. So say, for example, you're running Cisco switches with iOS, or in the same map, you can also add any ACI devices, such as Nexus switches running on ACI mode, and all of it can be represented on a single map for visibility. That's doable, yes.
Fantastic, thank you. The third question we've got here is, can you create custom inventory reports?
Yes, so that's correct. You can create reports based on the data from NetBrain, or you can create your own Q apps to create your custom reports. You know, very customizable or out of the box is your choice.
Then the fourth question is, what credentials are used by NetBrain to collect node information?
So just like you will do with any other monitoring system, you will provide NetBrain with read-only access credentials, and that's all it needs to create what we show you today.
Questions here I've got is around how is it licensed. So NetBrain is licensed per node, and in NetBrain's eyes, a node is a firewall, a switch, a router, a wireless access point, and a load balancer. Furthermore, it is also priced per concurrent user, so per seat. Depending on how many engineers you want to have access to, that is how NetBrain is priced. Yes, we can send out webinar recordings after this. We'll send it out following the webinar completion. One more question, Alejandro, for yourself. Is NetBrain only compatible with Cisco devices?
NetBrain is compatible with a wide array of different vendors. The way NetBrain communicates with the network is by using something called network drivers. So as long as we preload, and this is all done by NetBrain, the Juniper, Palo Alto, Cisco, HP, or any other vendors that you have, you can put them here and NetBrain will discover them just like these devices. So it's multi-vendor, yes.
Fantastic. A couple more questions, Alejandro, while I've got you on the call. Is it possible to include VLAN, ports, MAC, VRFs, etc. on NetBrain?
All of that information will be displayed on NetBrain by default, because what it does is it looks at the configuration file to draw all of this. So not only VRF information, what if you had HSRP, load balancing, policy-based routing, NAT, access lists, all of that will be represented on the map, just like the one that we see here. Yeah.
Fantastic. This webinar does only focus on documentation. However, NetBrain does focus on other key areas as well, such as troubleshooting, change management, and cyber defense. If you'd like to know more around these topics, please contact your account manager for more information around how NetBrain is also used other than its documentation tool. NetBrain offers a 14-day POC. However, we would need to have a conversation with yourselves around your business cases to create and set a defined parameter for your business and how NetBrain can get the best return on investment for your current infrastructure. Alejandro, one more for you over here. How do you gather data from the device? SNMP, SSH?
Yes, that's correct. So that's how we gather data, and I'm going to give you a quick example of how we do that, just to have a real idea of how we do it. So we go to our discovery pane, and here we're going to indicate NetBrain to discover our network via SNMP, SSH, or Telnet. And then we're going to specify all the subnet ranges that we want to scan. And just like a classic network scanner, it's going to ping to each one of the devices, and then it's going to attempt to use the credentials you provided. That's how it populates all these devices that we can see here. Cool.
Fantastic. So for example, Alejandro, if my vendor isn't supported, can we create support for this? So if it's not in the NetBrain portfolio, are we able to then add it into the NetBrain map?
We will be able to add it to the NetBrain map, and all that will take will be to do some tuning on that device. We will go to this fine-tune page, and if there is an SNMP that we don't recognize, or if there's anything that is not recognized by NetBrain, we can specify that here manually. However, most of the vendors out there, all the major vendors, will be automatically detected and added as such.
Fantastic. So NetBrain can read other tools from SolarWinds as well. So for example, if you've got PRTG or any monitoring solution in place, that can be imported into the NetBrain platform, as well as any ITSM function. So ServiceNow, AutoTask, Sherwell, this can also be created into the NetBrain map as well. And then finally, one more question. Can NetBrain show endpoints, PC, laptops? What is connected to each switch and port, Alejandro?
That is correct. So NetBrain is going to ping to all the devices, and if it finds an endpoint device that it does not recognize, it's going to take it as such. So I'm going to give you a quick example of that if we have time. So I'm just going to go to a different domain to give a quick example here. And I'll just show you how we will visualize two different endpoints in our network in two separate locations. So here, for example, I'm going to type the IP address of one of our endpoints, which is sitting on this network. And I'm going to type another endpoint here. And let's see if they can reach each other. And the way NetBrain recognizes an endpoint is by looking at the configuration of the network device that we do manage. So if you are in a network device and you see that the interface is up and the MAC address is this and this, it will know that there is an endpoint connected to this bit of the network. So here, for example, we can see this endpoint right here, which happens to be connected to the same LAN as this gateway. So you can do different types of layer 2 analysis, and we can maybe do some more of that later on a different demo, and show how the endpoints connect to each other and how we can do an A to B path on a layer 2 basis. So yes, endpoints are identified by NetBrain. Also, any IP phones or any other type of endpoint is detected. I recently ran a test from a CCTV camera, from one CCTV camera to a server, and that was detected, and it ran from A to B. Okay.
That's it. Alejandro, we've got two more questions on the webinar. So is the application on-premise, cloud-premise, or other, or all?
So at the current time, NetBrain is deployed on premises. So you need to allow it to discover your network. It will need to have reachability to all the devices via a management network or different ways. But as it stands, it's an on-premise network. It is not a cloud-based solution. So yeah.
Fantastic, thank you. And then a couple more questions which are just coming through now. Can we provision the software in Azure, on VM, or AWS?
All of the NetBrain installation relies on two servers. One Linux server, a CentOS or Red Hat, and a Windows server. So as long as you can spin a Windows, and a Linux server in Azure, AWS, or whatever you have, NetBrain can be run on top of that and discover the network. And just to give you a brief example of that, all of these devices that you see right here, they are cloud devices. So this is a cloud service router, and this firewall here is an ASA virtual. So these are all virtualized, and as you know, the cloud is also using virtualization. So this is how the cloud would see it as well. So yeah, fully supported for cloud.
Fantastic. So one more question we have is, Alejandro, can you briefly demonstrate some troubleshooting examples in NetBrain? As we've got a little bit of time. Are you able to go through that for me?
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, so I'll just give you a few examples of how we approach this. So the center of how we approach troubleshooting in NetBrain is using something called runbooks. Now, the runbooks are a series of steps that we use in our network that allows us to have a standardized manner to approach problems. For example, if I'm an engineer and I find a problem on my network, I'm probably going to go to the official documentation and start going through these documented flowcharts and complicated troubleshooting schemes. Now, this is going to take a long while, so what we thought about in NetBrain is doing the following. Why not transforming these complicated flowcharts into an executable runbook? So what we've done is created all these templates here. And here, for example, if I wanted to check the failover of my firewall, I don't need to know the commands or the procedure because it's already stored here. So here I'm going to run this one, for example. And the great thing about this is that imagine that you have a level 1 team or level 2 team of support and you want them to troubleshoot the network. Would it not be great if they could do these steps before sending it to the level 3 team? So this is a great way to layer the way you troubleshoot, and you're providing your level 1 team with a tool to implement the best practices and not leave them alone in the dark. So now they just run this, and here we can see the status of this firewall failover with some legend here and some more information. All they will have to do if they wanted to escalate this is just go and share it with someone else in the team or save them up for future use. Then if we wanted to deploy multiple CLI commands at the same time, that's also doable. So you can just select the array of devices that you want to run this on. So in this case, just a firewall. And I'm going to go out to the firewall and tell it, run all these commands for me and give me the output. So this is a great thing here if you wanted to troubleshoot and create a map node that is going to be represented here. So we're changing the way in which you access your devices. And even if all of these devices were down, you could still do all these tests based on the last benchmark. So a really powerful tool to troubleshoot and look at all these different devices. Also, if you wanted to keep adding more to your runbook, you could create different tasks. You can execute CLI commands, ping, traceroute, all your regular tasks. If I wanted to run a queue up, for example, and we wanted to see all devices that, I don't know, that are running maybe a security string or something, say that we wanted to be compliant, we can check the community string of our devices. NetBrain is going to go out to all of my devices and check that they are compliant with this. And it's a great way to troubleshoot different things. So let's see what the result gives me. And here, yeah, here we should have an output probably because I'm running it on the baseline. But that's pretty much the idea, to run different tasks and run it different times and save the results. So yeah, that's just a little bit of what you can do with troubleshooting. Again, we can do much more.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Alejandro, for that demonstration. And as I've stated before, if you would like to learn more around NetBrain and the function and capabilities we haven't covered off on this webinar, then please contact your account manager to have a more high-level overview and demonstration. Just before we go, Alejandro, I've got one more question that has popped up. Is NetBrain also working for over-the-top services like VoIP services, their associated infrastructure, like Skype or Windows servers?
That is correct. So you can check any of those services because NetBrain being some sort of we can do packet analysis and based on different protocols. One quick example of that, for example, is if we had, for example, an IP phone here and we wanted to check how it communicates to our COCM manager or any other protocol, we could come here and tell NetBrain to use a particular protocol out of all these protocols here. And then maybe I'm just going to use TCP, for example. And then you can specify the port that you want to reach. So here, I'll give you a quick example of this. Say that I want to reach one site on any specific port. This could be voice or anything. We can run that path. NetBrain is going to analyze all these different ports all over the network. And also, if you wanted to see the different interface details, that will be displayed here. So I'm going to run let this run. And once we have it, we can see an output here that indicates that this device was allowing this via an access list. However, as I showed you before, if you want to get into more layer 2 or performance, we can do that too. And all that will take will be to maybe create a quick application here and just say, I want to check if this interface is not working fine. And you can drag here all the units that you want to check, maybe CRC, delays, duplex, and drag and drop that onto the map. So NetBrain is going to check the output of all these devices and provide you with the status of the interface. This is much easier than going into each one of the devices and doing show commands. NetBrain is doing all of that for you here. And here we can see that we have a very healthy interface here, with no CRC errors and full duplex on all of them. And here I can see actually a delay of 10. So I'm going to troubleshoot that later. But yes, we can represent all this information here.
Fantastic, Alejandro. Thank you so much. And we will end. Oh, sorry, one more question. Does this support QoS classes and an analysis?
That's correct. So that will be telephony or quality of service. And actually, let me see if we have anything here. So QoS. And there it is. So NetBrain came preloaded with all of these different data. So we can extract TOS, all these different variables. All it takes is just drag and drop them onto your map. And NetBrain is going to do something similar to what we have here. Unfortunately, on this demo, I'm not running on any QoS on my devices, but if you were, this is how it will be displayed. Yeah, just really powerful. You can compare it against your baseline or whatever else. Let's see any other options that we have here. Any map, policy maps or class, we can create tables with that. So yes, it is supported in NetBrain. Yeah, actually, to make it more clear, anything that takes place in your configuration is going to be represented here. So anything that takes part on your routes, ARP, MAC, NDP, or your configuration will be displayed here. Cool.
Finally, Alejandro, we've just got one more question which has just come through. Can we create custom tags to search?
That'll be custom tags to search. So in regards to that, what I will do is come to our search engine and look by either devices that belong to EIGRP or devices that have certain serial number or devices that belong to certain IP address range or devices that belong to a UK map. So you can find devices any way you like, and the search engine is going to do the hard work for you. So this is how you find devices. Finally, if you have asset tags on your devices, that can be added here too. So it's a really powerful search engine based on Elasticsearch. So it's going to find anything that you give it, even a MAC address here, so we can find that too.
Any further questions, guys? If not, myself and Alejandro will sign off from this webinar. Thank you very much for your time today, guys. And one of our account managers will be in contact shortly following this webinar to talk about NetBrain with yourselves. So thank you very much and have a great day.